The Kamen Rider Chronicle crisis continues this week in Exide, and it was actually another good episode, considering the run. Of making up for it's kind of dismal early episodes. Moreover, this one is focused on Taiga and Nico. Now, I've not had the best opinion of these two, simply for the unneeded animosity. Nico especially for her, repeated idiocy for what is ultimately a small, petty grievance in the grand scheme of things. But at least they're finally doing something with her instead of her staying around for no reason, as she gets a Kamen Rider Chronicle gosh shot and joins in the combat, actually managing to take down Revol, who has to be level 10-ish. Last time he respawned, he was at level 5, and the last time he respawned was when it manifested from Nico, so admittedly there is a bit of a personal stake in here for getting revenge in that. But as a consequence, Nico is then infected by Vernier, the Jet Combat's game boss. Made worse from before all this got going, Ren, I forget his last name, it begins with an A, but it doesn't, the Lovrica Bugster, who's masquerading as Geddon Corp's new CEO, put out word that anyone who's killed as a consequence of Kamen Rider Chronicle, vanished into the game world, they get a game over, they're de-res, digitized, and whatnot, they can possibly be brought back by clearing all of the Bugsters from the Kamen Rider Chronicle game. Now, immediately, all of us are pretty hesitant to believe that because it's coming from a Bugster and their goal is to wipe out humanity, so of course anything that would drive them into entering the game to be their prey, since Ride players are pathetically weak, even by mass production Rider standards. Except for somehow Nico, you got the main reason Nico was able to defeat Revol and his Bugster minions was through using the game items and subterfuge tactics, pretty much running and gunning appropriately because it was Revol he was fighting. She was fighting, and she's probably the only competent Ride player thus far, even though she is vastly should vastly be overwhelmed by everything else, and the episode still shows that if the others aren't backing her up, she is likely to be yet another victim. And this absolutely pisses off Taiga, which is the driving force for the episode. Complemented by how this week the Exide Blu-rays popped up, so on top of Blu-ray high-definition releases of episodes, we got Snipe Episode 0 Part 1 from the DVD specials, and it was good too. But it was kind of a double dose of Taiga, probably when they needed it the most with the character. Back on the Kamen Rider Chronicle, the players that are killed can be brought back thing. I'm pretty sure that's just subterfuge to get Ride player victims playing, but it's something that's sticking on Emu's mind because, first off with the whole Kyria thing, and of course the more recent losses that have weighed on him, on whether that means all of them that also got these game overs could be cleared by just removing in its entirety the Bugster virus. Now there's going to be a bit of a snag with that, considering Emu is also host to a Bugster, but considering the guilt he's feeling from all of this evil being spawned and caused by what they harvested from him, it has to be eating at him, and thus why the possibility of that writing itself through beating the game is probably the biggest sticking point with him, even though intellectually, and as Taiga says, it's probably just them playing everyone to get more players for their human extermination scheme. And I'm leaning towards Taiga's skepticism on this, as there's no reason for them to, what's the phrase? There's no reason for them to actually reveal this information if it was true. I mean, it's like, it would just more motivate people to eliminate the Bugsters, come at them and in large numbers, versus teasing them at something and then revealing, fooled you, it was never true. Especially since Parad is apparently the one behind this, and this is lying duplicitousness and the wily nature of how he sat back to just get his wing condition. It seems like a thing he would do. This all seems like a plan he would make to just fool people to do what he wants. But nonetheless, it's got Nico playing as a ride player, and of course, as I said, infected by Vernier. And Taiga is pissed off about this because she went behind his back, got reinfected by the Bugster virus, disproving my thought previously that once you're cured, you were made immune to it, because no, it's apparently like something out of the common cold. Since it keeps mutating, it can reinfect people all over again, just with all of the different bosses representing a different strain. She was cured of the Revol strain, then caught the Vernier strain from this incident. That pretty much works for me in covering the reinfection point, and how that Taiga's pissed because, you know, he cured her specifically to avoid this kind of shit, and now that he's trying to take away Chronicle from her, despite it being a game and games are her life, and as previously established, that's one of her stressing points alongside Emu. So now Taiga's presence is the one that's driving her nuts, because from Nico's point of view, he's been ignoring her and her needs. I'm just pausing here simply for that to sink in, because that's pretty much what's going on between them. This is an episode based around how there's an actual attraction now forming. It's like lampshading what Ren said about the two earlier. It's more them recognizing there's something there between them from simply from Taiga's loneliness and no one actually wanting to put up with Nico. At least that's the context I get from this, because Nico's pretty much on her own. She only has games, and Taiga only has his mission as the one who's lost everything, and Snipe Episode 0 definitely broadens that aspect of how he's lost everything, and thus, you know, since he's lost everything, it better him to sacrifice so others who have dreams don't have to. And actually works pretty well for complementing the character that way. Spoilers for Snipe Episode 0, since I'm not really getting into it, since it's just a 10-minute thing. Apparently, Taiga was the one that first used his radiology equipment to detect the Bugster in one of its first hosts after I'm forgetting his name now, he's only been gone a few episodes. After Kuroto started infecting people with it to spawn, you know, more of everything else. So Taiga found it, gave it to his pathologist friend, Maki, who then both of them were brought into the CR and told about the whole Bugster stuff. Taiga refused the call to become Kamen Snipe, leaving Maki to take it up, but the proto Bang Bang shooting Gashot killed him, so he feels responsible for getting his friend killed, as he was the one that was more compatible with the Gashot. He wouldn't have apparently died from using it, or at the very least having someone else to utilize it would have traded off the damage before it got too severe. That's what I'm reading into it, because the first part of Snipe Episode 0 ends with Maki trying to trigger the Gashot and dying, so I don't know if that's entirely true from how they're but that's how all of that was reading to me in context to what we've seen of Taiga's character thus far, and that if he's lost everything, then that's probably the first thing he lost, both his friend and any chance of reconciliation, because Maki was jealous of him, and that prompted him to, be the whole hero thing when Taiga didn't want to, and thus he feels responsible for its death. Again, reading into it, but that more explains why he's tried to take the Gashots from everyone else, because that what happened to his friend could easily happen to him. It's a form of survivor's guilt and taking responsibility by being the only one that needs to suffer, even though Kagami has a personal stake in this from his girlfriend dying, and Emu has a personal stake in this from him being unwillingly the source of all these infections. So it doesn't completely fully read as that, but I'm getting more of his logic now because of this, and I'm glad that they've developed that into just not just being a standoffish person. But he's been alone so long, and so with Nico shoving herself into his life because she believed he could be the one to actually defeat Emu, he's actually grown an attachment to her that he didn't even realize until she left and put herself in danger, and that's why she's so that's why he's so angry at her, and Nico is refusing to see that because she is a petulant, immature brat. And admittedly, when Taiga actually gets a chance to express all of this to her in the way he phrases late in the episode, which I'm not even going to try and paraphrase because it's legitimately that good writing between them, that she immediately accepts, says how she's growing up, but she's still, I feel, the worst character in the show because of her just general brattiness. I mean, she entered the show because she wants to kick Emu's ass because he beat her once in a tournament before he retired, and it's like, I don't get the fixation, since, she's M's successor as a gamer and became more successful in it than he ever was or could be. So, I still don't get her. I still don't quite get her obsession, and it's like, maybe, I doubt they're going to, but maybe if they finally let her and him have it out at some point in the series, that could fix it. But nonetheless, Taiga is so pissed he goes back to Genom Corp to confront Ren over this and pretty much just let it continue to distribute the Chronicle Gashots. And here, Ren pretty much reveals that he's a Bugster, the Lovrica Bugster from Heartbeat Crisis, the Gashot that Poppy is using it to become Kamen Rider Poppy. And where the hell he came from when only the original 10 Gashots were infected, who knows, because we've also got Bergamon in there. It's just that, like, how many Bugsters we haven't even seen yet are prowling around with their secret games. It could, hell, that would probably make, that could probably tie into what they might do with an epilogue story or post-series V-Cinema thing if they end up doing that, which they probably will. It'll probably be based around Paradox, knowing the stylization those post-series V-Cinemas have gone. Anyways, Lovrica is interesting, and in how he's an enemy that can't be hurt by any of the main riders, but appeared to be injured by Nico simply from her verbal assaulting of him after Nico and Taiga made up and agreed to pretty much clear Kamen Rider Chronicle as a team between them. I think, now, to avoid addressing Lovrica a bit longer, Taiga and Nico teaming up. I presume this is going to work on the premise of Taiga fights the big boss Bugster while Nico handles all the mooks, because that seems to be a better management of power levels between them, as Taiga has the power to barrel through the boss monsters while Nico can keep the smaller fry off him alongside the other ride players out of the action, or, just trying to mess general things up. And I could see, since Taiga is maining Bang Bang Simulation all the time now, he can't use his Gashkan Magnum. So it would be interesting to see him give up the Gashkan Magnum to Nico so she can do, supporting fire and have a second weapon aside from the, little baton thing the ride players have. That would kind of, back up their whole, relationship if she has his 6 or whatnot. Or maybe the little trophy thing she got from, defeating Revol allows her to manifest her own Gashkan Magnum. It's something I'd like to see, simply due to them just not using the I take a main Gashad and use its weapons once thing, like was seen in the premiere episode with the ride players taking all of Emu's gear. I'd like to see a bit more of that if she's going to be a regular fighter in the series. Or maybe even Emu giving up Giri Giri Chambara for her so she can use the Gashkan Sparrow, because I really like that weapon. Either way, I think she should get something a bit better than the stupid baton thing she's stuck wielding as a ride player. Lovrica, however, I think I see a bit more to why they brainwashed Poppy as a Bugster, and also what might be developing for her arc as Kamen Rider Poppy once they get her back from the brainwashing. Lovrica seems to only be injured by women, and I think I get why. He's manifesting from a dating game and is presenting himself as a Casanova. So his natural state is charming women. Thus, his injuries by hurtful barbs from a woman seems to imply that turning down the Casanova is how you actually defeat him. So this makes him a prime antagonist for elevating both Nico and a non-brainwashed Poppy to the field, because the main writers of the series cannot beat Lovrica as they're all men. So this actually places more emphasis on getting Poppy back on their side and then having an arc with her where she I shouldn't say stands up on her own, but gets back at Lovrica for pretty much enslaving her to his whims with the brainwashing inflicted upon her. And that's actually an interesting arc that I'd like to see explored, even though, kind of the status quo they have right now, I don't want to say torturous, but they've been using it well for what they have. I'm still hoping they don't follow back up on the Curse of the Female Kamen Rider and kill her off, but I'm liking where they're going with her in the short term, especially since they're addressing her current status as a brainwashed antagonist next episodes. It's like since Emu saw signs that her prior personality has not entirely been reset, but overwritten, and there's signs of her peeking through it that he's caught sight of in the midst of the battle. Some technical complaints. A large part of the latter half of the episode has all of the riders thrown into a fountain, and they really should have ADR'd the lines here, because between the music, the background noise of the fountain, and the people talking are the ones least understandable. I mean, because a lot of us watch these with subtitles. I doubt any of my viewers know regular Japanese. This isn't a bad thing for us, but from a technical standpoint, these lines should have been gone back over simply so they could more mute the fountain in the background, as they've done in other series, like O's, Ankh and Eiji fighting in the sea. I remember being ADR'd because otherwise the background noise would have been too loud. And this is definitely one of those times where they need to go back and do that to present the best possible just give the best presentation they can for the material. Especially since, like, Taiga has a lot of good lines in this scene that are drowned out by the sounds of this fountain. They're right nearby. And it's really a shame that happened because, like I keep saying, they're really that damn good. So yeah, this is another good episode, continuing Exide's streak of making up for issues in its early half, and really selling the series as something worthwhile to watch, unlike other series I could name. So that's pretty much all I have for this week.